An interesting topic of discussion. An interesting topic of discussion was brought up this weekend by former 49ers wide receiver Willie Sneed when he basically went out of his way to say there was no real competition for the 49ers, at least wide receivers. I guess we could speak from that particular context. But overall, he's basically saying that the 49ers are run on entitlement and that there isn't any competition to be had. Well, let's kind of dive deeper into what he had to say, but it's also important to note he wasn't the only one. Ray McLeod, 49ers wide receiver as well, who has since moved on, also chimed in with basically the same exact points. So let's first of all, let's take a look at what is being said, and then we will diagnose if we're buying or selling what is being sold here. So if we take a look right here at what Willie Sneed is talking about, you can see that he tweeted, "All I want is to go back to a team that isn't afraid to let guys compete for a roster spot. These last 3 years have been nothing short of entitlement. Competition breeds champions." That's quite a tweet to make as a free agent who definitely probably had a shot at returning to the San Francisco 49ers if they needed some additional wide receiver help, because Willie Sneed has been floating around the practice squad for some time. But hey, he's made some contributions to the 49ers, although not a lot. He has in some instances, but this was a pretty interesting thing to tweet, and basically saying nothing short of entitlement, which again, followed up by competition breeds success, is an indication that there was no competition with the San Francisco 49ers. Well, I have some thoughts on this, but let's kind of work our way through, as you can see, the laundry list of tweets, and we'll get the full picture. Now, Rob, I really like this question by Rob. He said Sneed was with SF from 2022 to 2023. Who would you have been on the roster over, Willie? And he says at the bottom in response, they can't give an undrafted 10-year vet that came off of a tryout workout a roster spot. Makes someone look bad. Ooh. Oh, so you're saying, so essentially Willie Sneed is kind of saying, well, we can't give Willie a roster spot over guys like what? Danny Gray, Chris Connolly, Ray McLeod. Who's he talking about? Because Danny Gray was medically redshirted for the entirety of the year and they did not bring him back. It wasn't him. Chris Connolly got a roster spot with the San Francisco 49ers, I guess, over Willie Sneed. Obviously, he can't be talking about Debo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, or Jawan Jennings because those guys are locks. Ray McLeod was signed as a free agent. So, to be honest, I'm not really sure who he's talking about. I don't know who he would be making the squad over, considering that the San Francisco 49ers really didn't have that many guys to choose from the wide receiver position. And who would he make the roster over? Jawan? Ray McLeod, who signed a contract? I'm not really sure exactly who he's speaking on, but I found that comment to be interesting. Willie continued to go on to say, in the words of my great friend George Kittle, I'm going to keep playing until they kick me out of the league. I love what I do. I still have too much gas in the tank and passion in my heart. It's a blessing to be a part of this league. He goes on to say, they've been sleeping on me since 2014, 10 years in the league, and they're still trying to find a way to sleep on me. LOL. Willie says, flock fans, which I believe is what they call Ravens fans, and Who Dat Nation, Saints fans, always been good to me, some real ones. The faithful have a great fan base as well. I only wish I could have given y'all more of what I had to offer. And Willie says, but teams act like I ain't got no tape, and they can't believe I've really gotten better since this time. So I don't know what he's talking about in a certain sense. I do know he was called up a bunch of times. I think of that one play that actually Ray McLeod scored on an end around. I think it wasn't last year, but it was the year prior. Ray had this big touchdown run up the right side. It was beautifully blocked. It's one of my favorite plays of the season. And Willie was a part of that. I think he blocked maybe one or two guys on the edge. He had one of the edge ceiling blocks that sprung Ray McLeod. That's the play that sticks out to me the most from Willie Sneed. Willie Sneed also had probably the sickest catch out of anyone in training camp last season, where he had to wrap around a defender to catch a low ball at the corner pylon at the front of the end zone. It was a phenomenal play, but we really haven't seen all that much from Willie Sneed. But like I said at the beginning of the video, Ray McLeod also chimed in on this situation. He quote tweeted the original tweet and said, "God always come through. Finding our people makes you realize there was nothing ever wrong with you." Uh, okay. I really don't think that is super obvious of what he's trying to say, other than the fact that he doesn't believe that there's necessarily something wrong with him. That is the problem. Again, hard to interpret sometimes what these guys are trying to say. However, he did like this tweet, and I think this sums it up pretty well. So again, Ray McLeod liked this tweet under the same quote tweet of Willie Sneed's comments. And this tweet says, "He's right. NFL teams act like they will play the best player through competition, but that's not the case, especially if it's close competition. Roster politics and where money and draft capital is allocated is all real." So again, Ray McLeod liked this tweet to kind of, I think, tie together his original tweet. But at the end of the day, listen, we know that roster politics exist. This is the NFL. This isn't college ball. These guys are making money. They've signed deals. They've been drafted in certain spots. People inside internally want them to be successful, or sometimes they don't have a hand in giving a crap if someone is successful. So I don't necessarily disagree with the notion that roster politics exist or anything like that. But again, you can also counteract some of these points with like, well, look at where Brandon Ayuk was drafted. He was a first round draft pick. The 49ers traded up for him. And guess what? He found himself in the quote unquote doghouse in year two, where he wasn't even seeing the field. And you had other guys like Trent Sherfield getting on the field over him at certain instances. So there have been plenty of instances to show that if you aren't doing apparently what you're supposed to be doing, there will be other guys who play over you in certain situations. So, you know, I would say too, like if you also use the Trey Lance example where the 49ers traded three first round draft picks to go get him, and they decided to start Jimmy Garoppolo and not Trey Lance. You would think roster politics, considering where you were drafted and how much was given up and how much, that kind of stuff. Yeah, that might make sense to maybe play Trey Lance. But hey, is there other roster politics for Jimmy Garoppolo? How much money he was getting? So I just find this conversation to be interesting. I find it's probably not something that you want to talk about as a pending free agent who probably had a chance to return to the San Francisco 49ers. I don't know if this changes anything, but maybe calling I don't know who he's calling entitled. I don't know if it's the wide receiver room, if it's his coaches or what have you. But it's all makes for a very interesting topic. But I think we can all kind of wrap our heads around this situation and understand that, listen, the best guys are going to play for the most part. Um, you know, Willie Sneed and Ray McLeod aren't going to be taking away meaningful snaps from Debo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, and Jawan Jennings. That's just not going to happen. Chris Connolly made it onto the active roster after being a practice squad guy who was, getting elevated up and down. So he made it back on. I'm not really sure. Not really sure here exactly what he's speaking to directly. So it's a double-edged sword. Our roster politics a thing? Of course they are. It's the NFL, and we understand why. But also too, I don't think that the 49ers would willingly bench someone or put someone ahead of another person just for entitlement, or I don't know. I don't know. That's just my thought on it. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more updates.